President Biden, meanwhile, is hosting Japan's prime minister and South Korea's president today for his first ever leaders summit at Camp David. With China's aggression expected to dominate the conversation, it comes as the Biden administration announces new tariffs on can-making metal imports. China is seeing the highest tariffs with a levy of over 122% of their import value. I spoke with Stevens Inc. Executive Vice President Mary Kissel about this yesterday. Watch what she said.
The bigger question is a tougher question, which is it's not just about punishing China and erecting barriers. It's about building alliances and strengthening the American economy and our innovators to win. And I hate to say competition because it's not a competition, right? It's not a fair and level playing field. That's something else I learned in the administration, right? You talk to free traders and they say, well, you know, free trade's great. Yeah, it is. But we don't have free trade with China, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
What we need to insist on is a fair and level playing field. We should stop treating them differently.
Do you have the Trump? A similar sentiment that President Trump told me when I spoke with him recently. Atlas Organization founder and the author of The Decisive Decade, author Jonathan D.T. Ward joins me now to talk more about that. Jonathan, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. You know, President Trump instituted tariffs on China and pushed back. That was his way of pushing back on the aggression from communist China. But you've mentioned so many times that the capital markets are wide open for communist China, and that has ordinary Americans basically funding the expansion of the CCP. Your thoughts?
Right. Well, sure, Maria. So it's been a while since tariffs have been in the news, and it's good to see that that's still an instrument of U.S. policy. Apparently, this was a 122% tariff, and part of the reason, according to the Wall Street Journal, was an investigation that would have asked this, the Chinese companies in the can-making industry to prove that they are not beholden to the Chinese Communist Party and that they refuse to participate in that. So, again, the Chinese companies and the Chinese state are deeply intertwined. I mean, that's the nature of the system. I mean, very few things really get outside of the bounds of that relationship. And insofar as this sector is going to be important, and we're concerned about dumping, and we have very few, plants left that even do this in the United States. I mean, probably the right move. So glad to see that that's still a policy instrument. And, as you've just mentioned, I mean, this is just one dimension. I mean, we have not got a full spectrum trade strategy for China. It's one thing to put tariffs on. It's another to go and win a global contest for trade. I mean, they have become the primary trading nation with the plurality of the world's other nations, and we just don't have a response to that yet. We're going to need one. And then when it comes to capital markets, I mean, we've seen very little action in last week's executive order, which is, I think, an important signal to business, and it's being read that way to some extent. It's still not a strong enough signal and not a genuine broad spectrum capital market strategy. So when you're talking about the real index creators and the fact that so much capital is flowing into China, not just from the United States, but from the entire U.S. alliance system, which makes up the bulk of global wealth and GDP. I mean, we just don't yet have a full spectrum economic strategy, and that's what we need if we're serious about this competition. And as Mary mentioned, and as I've written about, at great length, it's not just about containment of China, it's also about building our relations with our allies and ensuring that the structure of the U.S. System remains intact despite the challenge from Moscow and Beijing. So the Camp David summit in that regard is absolutely a win. I mean, getting Korea and Japan together has been an enormous challenge in U.S. foreign policy for decades. And here we are at hopefully the beginning of bringing a real important trilateral together with China and North Korea as the focus.
Yeah. Well, that's very good because the neighbors are in the region are also watching this aggression and realizing they also need a plan. That executive order from the administration obviously doesn't do it. We've spoken with many people on that. Roger Robinson Jr. Was with me last week and said this is incredibly narrow. The public market's got a complete pass. It's not even going to be instituted for a whole year. And yet China's Commerce Ministry is trying to appear tough, saying yesterday that they would welcome a visit by U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. Beijing saying that the countries are in, quote, close communication on arrangements. There have been reports that she could travel to Beijing later this month, Jonathan. We keep sending people to travel there to Beijing, and yet the aggression gets worse and worse. I mean, Janet Yellen went there, and they served her psychedelic mushrooms. What kind of what does that say about the level of lack of respect that the Communist Party has for America? They do the ordering in this Chinese restaurant, and they order mushrooms that are hallucinogenic, and she eats them.
Right. Apparently, the mushrooms lose their hallucinogenic properties when cooked, or at least that's what she said, and some others have corroborated. But it certainly must have made her trip more interesting. So a long, strange trip to Beijing for Janet Yellen. And this is embarrassing to some extent, to send officials over there to continue to engage without a real strategy, to have contradictory statements constantly, not least of which is from Yellen herself, talking about we want businesses to engage. We're not trying to slow China down economically. We're not looking for economic advantages. I mean, this is going to be won or lost as an economic competition. It's a geopolitical competition. There is a real risk of military conflict, but the major advantage the U.S. has to play is to win an economic competition while we still can, while we're still the world's largest economy, while we're still, the reserve currency, while we still can sanction all kinds of entities around the world, and while we still are the vast majority, or certainly far more than any other nation state of global wealth. I mean, those are the advantages we have, and we need to use them if we're serious. If we're not serious, there's plenty, of course, we can do to keep on allowing them to gain on us.
Well, it doesn't seem like we're serious, frankly. I mean, look, maybe it's time for Beijing to send one of their officials to America, given the fact that it's not lost on me that every meeting of these cabinet officials has been a complete embarrassment. Anthony Blinken travels there, and while he's getting on the plane, they're hacking his email, and they're hacking the Commerce Department, the State Department. John Kerry goes there, and while he's still on the ground in Beijing, Xi Jinping comes out and says, nobody's going to tell us what to do with our climate strategy. And then Janet Yellen goes and they give her drugs in the mushroom. I mean, really, that is just such a level of disrespect. It's beyond. And this is all happening at a time when China's economy is weakening. Morgan Stanley cut its forecast for China's economic growth into next year due to what they're calling a slump in property market and local government financial stress. We know that China's property company Evergrande has now filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy in a Manhattan court. This happened yesterday. This is a big deal, Jonathan. Let's talk about this shift in sentiment around the Chinese economy. Even businesses are having second thoughts about going into China, opening their doors, knowing that there's all these new rules that the CCP has that allow them to march into any business and steal their intellectual property and raid the place like they've done at Bain and Company.
Well, sure, and I think you're right. I mean, certainly the media is picking up on, the slowing of the Chinese economy to a certain extent. I mean, the weakness in the property sector. I mean, these are all becoming mainstream readings of how China's doing. So I think at a strategic level, that presents. I mean, it shows us that economic containment, real economic containment, I think, is a viable strategy. I mean, you can contain China in the 2020s and ensure that they never catch up to us. I mean, that's what we should be doing. That's capital markets, trade, and technology. And as you've pointed out, I mean, things like the new national security law, the anti-foreign espionage law, I mean, the raid on Bain and other groups, I mean, this is showing, as well as geopolitics, the support for Putin, the understanding of what Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine did to businesses that, expected to be in Russia probably for the long run. I think businesses are starting to understand that geopolitics matters, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to deprioritize this market yet. Still supply chains there, and I think that's going to require a coordination between business and government, and essentially to enable corporate strategies to shift away from China and to de-risk that, and also to get capital flows coming back to the United States. And on the growth rate drop, I mean, Morgan Stanley just revised this year's projections for Chinese GDP from 5% to 4.7%, but that's still 3.5 times what they project the U.S. growing at this year. So we're not really, we're still dealing with a growing country. We're dealing with a country that's growing faster than us. It's a $20 trillion economy. This is not over yet. This is just beginning.
Real quick, Jonathan, before you go, the Chinese yuan is now at a 15-year low, and of course, the Evergrande bankruptcy is top of news. Do you believe that U.S. banks are going to get on the hook for this Evergrande disaster? Are we going to see the U.S. banks have to take a fall because of what's going on with this bankruptcy of Evergrande?
Well, sure, and they just announced their offshore debt restructuring, and yes, anyone that's invested in this is going to get hurt hard, and I think anyone that's invested in other aspects of the Chinese economy need to look at what they're doing. So the banks probably need to deeply revise their strategies towards China and the Indo-Pacific more broadly.
You have been writing this for so many years, Jonathan. You've been spot on once again in your latest book. Thanks very much for your knowledge and your time on all of this, Jonathan. Thank you. Jonathan D.T. Ward joining us this morning. We'll see you soon, Jonathan. We'll be right back.